One of the things that is vital, especially for people that are just starting out and looking for any type of a job, even if it's your first job, is really understanding what the process is and looking for going to an interview, and then ultimately what do you do after the interview, maybe even before you get the job at all. There's a process here, and if you understand the process, one, it makes looking for a job and looking for the right job much easier. And then also making sure that you actually can obtain that job. And so this is basically employment basics. And what that means is, what are the ins and outs of, if I want to go look for a job, and actually one of my kids is in this phase of his life right now. If I want to go look for a first job, what exactly do I do? How do I do that? And how do I even know what jobs are out there? And then, of course, as you go on in your life, and you might then start a career. Now this is your career move, and which is going to be vitally important. What are the steps of that? Well, the first step is you got to know where and what the job openings are. In today's world, a lot of the time, you can either go online and search. Sometimes you can look in newspapers still, that still exists, but a lot of the searching happens online. Now, let me caution you, if you simply just Google for jobs, or you go to a search engine, you're going to get lost. So a lot of times you need to know precisely what type of industry in your area are you thinking about. So if you're a high school student and you're saying, I just need a job, well, sometimes the best way to do that, if you're saying, I'm going to get a job in some fast food restaurant, a lot of the easiest way to do that then is to go to the local fast food restaurants and just see if they're hiring. That's an easy way to do it. If it's more of a career search, so for instance, if I'm a starting teacher and it's like, okay, I know what part of the country I would like to work in, or maybe even part of my state that I would like to work in. Well, now you can narrow that, and there will actually be search engines depending on the profession you're entering. So when I have student teachers, I will show them online saying, okay, you don't just go out there and start searching the internet, it's going to drive you crazy. You go to certain areas that you want to work in, and a lot of times there'll be a database that you can tap into. And even if I wanted to be a college professor, for instance, there are databases I can tap into online that will narrow it down for me. There's one I'm thinking of actually. It'll say, do you want the whole country or do you want a part of the country? And I can get as specific as a metro region. So I can say, well, I want to work in Ohio, and I want to work in Northeast Ohio, and I want all the jobs within a 50-mile radius of Cleveland that are in regards to teaching. That really helps. So when you're talking career moves, that's the type of really internet usage you're going to look at. If you're looking at your first job, that I need to get a local job while I'm a teenager, I want a car, and so I need to get a job. A lot of times that's where you're going to maybe check out the local newspapers, or if they have websites, or then you can also see, you can even walk into these places and ask. So there are different ways to do that. But again, as your career gets started, finding the job, and especially today's technology is great, but understanding how to maneuver the technology and use it to your advantage so you don't go crazy and you don't wind up with 5 million hits when you enter in teaching jobs, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, where do I start? So a lot of times if you can narrow the focus, you're going to be better. So once you know what it is, like, okay, I'm going to apply for this job, so then what happens? Well, the first thing is a letter of application. Most jobs will require a letter of application. What that means is, okay, I read this job posting, I think I'm going to apply for this position. So some people call this a cover letter. What that is I am telling the prospective employer, it's a basic letter, and the letter is basically, here's my name and address and who I am, and then I am applying for the position of. And then you basically introduce yourself briefly, it is not long at all, that, you know, I graduated from this college, or I go to this high school, and I'm really looking forward, I think my skills and communication can really help you, looking forward to talking to you in the future. That's it. But it tells them, the prospective employer then knows, okay, the reason I'm getting your resume, which we'll get to in a sec, the reason I'm getting your resume is because you're applying for this specific job. I'm not just getting handed a resume that Todd Edmond, what is he going for? I don't understand what. And then that letter of application is, oh, You're going for this job, right? And so that way they know. So sometimes without that, there's a process when it comes to hiring people. If you don't have one of these simple things, they'll just throw your resume in the trash can, because I've got so many resumes here. If you couldn't take the time to put in a letter and telling me what you're doing this for, well then, the heck with that. I'm going to go off to somebody else who does. So letter of application. Now attached to that usually is your resume. And your resume is a snapshot of you. It's a breakdown of the jobs that you have had, and depending again how far you move in your career. Like for instance, I no longer have on my resume the jobs that I had in high school. Not even really in college, quite honestly. That I'm too far into my career. At first, your resume will have those things because you're building your resume. As you get into your career, they really don't care to know what you did in high school as much as what did you do for this career? How have you prepared yourself for this career? So that will change over time. But basically, you're telling them about your professional life in your resume. Lots of templates online to help you build a resume. It's a simple process. I have always told people that I work with, if it's student teachers or whoever, I've always told them, and I'm telling you, that your resume needs to be one page. That if you have a 15-page resume and you're bragging that much, the prospective employer is not looking for that. They don't have time. Give me a snapshot of who you are. I need to know where you've worked, what your responsibilities have been, and where you went to school. That's what I need to know. And then we can get to the rest when I interview you. So make it quick and make it to the point. Now, a lot of times you'll put references on your resume. You might even see, if you go online and look at templates, you'll see resumes that'll say on the reference part, those are people that'll vouch for you. It'll say references available upon request. Sometimes people do that so it stays a page. And then what you have to make sure you do then, if you go into the interview and they say, hey, do you have those references? Because it says available upon request. I am requesting it. So you better have that page that has the references. Usually it's 3, that you have 3 references that will vouch for you. You don't want your parents, you don't want a buddy, and you don't want a minister. Those are ones that they're like, well, like they're not going to say good things about you. You want people you've worked with. You want people who know your character professionally. Those are references. So that's a part of your resume as well. Then you actually, with all of this, you have your letter, you have the resume, and of course you've got to submit the application. And in a lot of cases in today's world, this is all online. So you're doing all of these steps online. You can attach files, but you're doing all of these steps online. So all 3, the application, the resume, and the cover letter or letter of application, all kind of get submitted. Then when you go into the interview, one, you've got to look the part. You have to look good. You have to be clean. You have to have your hair nice. You have to wear nice clothes. T-shirt and shorts probably won't do it. And then the basics that you really need to know for the interview, if you're on time, you're late. So if I have an interview today at 9 o'clock, you don't show up at 9 o'clock. You show up about 10 to 15 minutes early. So I always say, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Because if they walk out to get you for the interview, and let's say it's 8:59 instead of 9 o'clock and you haven't shown up yet, and they come out and they say, Todd Edmond, and you're not there yet, and it's 1 minute until your interview time. Well, what that tells them, oh, well, okay, so he's going to be late to work every day. And so you need to arrive early. So shake hands with people, look them in the eye. So during an interview, you're here. You're not here, you're not here, you're not here, you're here. That's a confidence thing. So I work with people on this. Don't know, look at me. I'm right here. I'm the one talking to you. Eye contact is big, and a good handshake is something you need as well. Confidence is what that shows. Then after the interview, even if you don't know you have the job yet, you send them a letter of thank you. It's a quick little note saying, I want to thank you for the time that you took with me today. In today's world, you could even do this with an email possibly. You got to be kind of careful with emails sometimes. But you don't text them. That's not what we're talking about. But it's a formal letter just basically saying, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I will hear from you, or I look forward to hearing from you in the future. So that's just a quick thank you, acknowledging that I appreciate your time that you took with me to possibly look into this opportunity. So when you're really looking at the basics of getting a job, So finding the job and then working through the process, it's all about timing, and it's all about making sure that you're covering your tracks with a job. Because in the end, usually you get the job by being organized, by having things ready to go, and then having that confidence in the interview of, I know who I am, and I'm looking forward to telling you about me, not bragging, but I'm looking forward to telling you about me and how I can help this business move forward. And remember, if you're on time, you're late, and if you're early, you're on time. See you next time.